Hello, and thanks for tuning in to M Compass Media. It's Thursday, the 27th of January, 2022, and I'm your host, Finbar Markey. Last Saturday in Dublin, there was a demonstration for human rights and against COVID regulations. Although the government had announced the day before the abandonment of most of those regulations, at least 3,000 people showed up on the day. I'm joined now by Diarmaid O'Cadhla, who was one of the principal organisers of that demonstration. Hello, Diarmaid, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Finbar. Yeah, a very good day on Saturday, I think, which was very large attendance, I think, especially when you factor in the announcement which took place the previous day, where most, I suppose it's fair to say, most of the restrictions were withdrawn by government, and that, if you like, I think took some, it certainly did take some attendance away from the event. But I suppose a very positive thing from it is that people realize that this problem has not gone away and that all these emergency powers are still in place, and cruelly that the children are still being targeted. And so the fact that such a number turned up on Saturday in Dublin told you there's a very strong conviction in people generally that we're not accepting this and it's not over and we shall march on. So I was very enthused. I mean, we didn't know, I mean, to be honest, in the morning we were guessing how many are going to turn up. Whereas it would have been a lot larger, I have no doubt whatever, but it was still very significant. I mean, the whole thing shut down O'Connell Street completely for a couple of hours. And that requires a substantial attendance.
I was there myself on the day, Diarmaid, and I took some footage. So I put some bits together just to show the viewers. So we're going to play that now.
Thank you to everyone who's made the effort to come out here today, to continue to fight for their children's right to bodily integrity, to fight for their freedom, and to push the government for the complete repealing of the primary legislation, which at any moment could be used to reinstate the measures lifted today.
Lots of energy, lots of people emboldened. The speeches were fantastic on the day as well.
Yeah.
Since then, you've been really busy, Diarmaid, because you've been at the Taoiseach's constituency office on Monday. Could you tell us about that?
Yes, I mean, on Saturday, I announced that on the platform myself that Micheál Martin is actually my local, he's my neighbour, he's only a few hundred yards away, his home is, but he's my TD, and on Saturday I announced I would visit him to ask him would he please remove the remaining measures immediately. And so, in fact, quite a number of people, 60 or 70 people I would guess, turned up at his constituency office last Monday, and we expressed ourselves and we asked, we knocked on the door, which of course remained closed to us, but we asked would someone speak on his behalf if he wasn't there himself. Of course nobody would, but we did voice our opinion that it was wrong, that there was no science in regards to masking children, masking generally, but children in school especially so. So we've left that we're going to return there next Monday, and we asked that somebody would be available to meet us. Ideally, Taoiseach himself, our local TD, will come and speak with the people there, or somebody who will speak in his behalf. So we're putting together, and in fact, if anybody wants to prompt us with the questions, but we're going to ask them, where's the science behind this masking, and why is he being prompted by the World Health Organization, World Economic Forum, all these agencies outside of our border in regards to health policy. So we want to get answers as to why we are where we are and why he thinks it's okay that this emergency program carries on a day-to-day basis. It needs to be stopped now. That is what the people in Dublin, certainly last Saturday, wanted that. And those opening talks, especially, I think, were on fire. They hit the nail on the head. They denounced this, you know, people can go back to the pubs now, we can go to restaurants, we can celebrate, we can stay till the early hours of the morning, but they're going to leave the children masked for up to 6 or 7 hours a day in schools.
But there's more, isn't there more? Diarmaid, there's more than just looking at the science from the point of view of the potential to become infected in class or to pass on infection and things like that. The other side of the coin that has to be weighed up, I think, is the impact that it has on child development. And I'm a qualified social care practitioner, and I worked with children in care for over 10 years. And in terms of developmental delay when it comes to language, for instance, some children who are not picking up language as quickly as others for whatever reason, they're actually communicating very much more with and understanding people much more with facial expression, with smiles, with gestures, things like that. And there's a lot of children, especially at that younger age in primary school, in the mid to lower region of primary school, who are really, really dependent on, to fully appreciate their situational position, are dependent on facial expression, and it really does impact on development. And I think that's something that maybe, you know, a lot of people I've heard say, oh, well, listen, they've dropped everything else. What's the harm of the mask on kids at school? But it really is problematic. And the idea that that would be maintained for possibly a year more, 2 years, where the majority of a child's time is spent looking at people with no facial expression other than a forehead and eyes. I think that's very problematic. I personally think, as much as we're talking about the lack of science behind the spread within classrooms, I think it's very important that we also look at the impact on children.
Absolutely, and from every angle. I mean, it's not just science in terms of, as you say, stopping a virus. I mean, that is just ludicrous. But the whole impact on a child's development and education, socially, linguistically, every way. There is no justifications for it, and it is not acceptable, and never was, as to why the children in schools should be masked forcibly in this way. Like, there's intimidation involved. Why are they? Why is it okay to do this when no impact for all of these things has been carried out? No impact study, and that is not acceptable. So parents, like, I'd love to, and I'm constantly appealing to parents, please don't allow this to happen, and teachers, protect the children in your care. I know a lot of teachers have spoken out about this and explained these educational questions you're talking about, you know, reading the facial expressions, emotions. All of these things are very important for children in their developmental years. And really, that this has been carried on while we're supposed to be relieved that we can now go and, you know, dine out or go clubbing and dancing. I mean, someone has got priorities completely wrong. And you have to question, what is the agenda? And I think Taoiseach told us that himself on Friday, and when he emphasized a number of times that it's okay for the children now to get their jab and so on. This is really what's behind it, I suppose, but it's not okay. The children, you know, I'm fed up saying, and people are probably fed up listening to it, children are not endangered by this virus. And the bogus reasoning that they should get this jab to protect elders is alien completely. Let's first mind the children before ourselves. That is the natural inkling of any parent. You put your child before yourself anytime. But this isn't the logic of government. So we need to march on. So I know we are going to go back, as we have arranged. We have an appointment at this stage at 3 o'clock next Monday to the constituency office of Finbar Markey on Evergreen Road in Cork. It's just beside Turner's Cross. And we're going to knock there and expect that somebody, a human, will actually speak with us and answer these questions, which we will have a list of prepared. And we want answers, and we're going to keep doing it until we get answers. It's just not acceptable at all that we should just carry on as normal in this condition.
I think that brings us ideally to my next question. To a lot of people, it's all over. Games shut down, stadiums closed up. Is it all over?
Well, I think that is the suggestion from government, that it's all over, barring a few things they're going to reassess going forward. But a few things happen to be the most precious things, our children. So it's not over by a long shot. And, you know, even if they've, yes, they have removed this offensive segregation and so on temporarily in a domestic setting, it's still there. The digital certificates are still existing on a European level for travel, and still at the order of a minister, they'll be introduced again for hospitality or for work or anything else they want it for. So it's all still there. And we urged, and the message from the rally on Saturday in Dublin was, we're heading towards the 31st of March, and there will be a vote again, maybe the 3rd or 4th week of March. There will be a vote again on the question of renewing these emergency powers. So we have to organise to ensure that that vote is defeated or not put, whichever the case is. And that's what we're aiming for. So we're putting pressure on Taoiseach Micheál Martin. In fact, I would urge people all over the country to put pressure on all of their TDs and senators. Everybody has a role in this. But I think particularly, and I know it's for discussion at the moment, these Fianna Fáil TDs, they are the ones leading government. And are they going to be happy? We should put it to them. Are they going to be happy that the legacy of the Fianna Fáil party is as the abusers of children? And because that is what they are. They could fix this in the morning if they decided to do so. And that's amongst the questions we're going to be putting on Taoiseach on Monday.
So all those issues that you mentioned are events and expected developments that you're challenging. Is there a bigger challenge here, a bigger task that envelopes all of this, which is ultimately the separation of public health and corporate pharmacology? Is there a grander task that's going to not involve stopping X, Y, or Z, but building a campaign from the ground to actually create that separation? Do you have any thoughts on that? I
do indeed. I mean, some months ago, I did an interview with a national school teacher who explained how Pfizer Corporation were allowed to set a course curriculum agenda, if you like, in the national schools and produce literature for it and all, and had this approved on the nod really very quickly, where in a process that normally takes an extended period of years to have course content for teaching approved. So Big Pharma have interfered in that educational process on this health issue, but we can see the influence they have when you look at bodies like NEFID, when you look at the behavior of our own CMO, our Chief Medical Officer, when you look at how the whole health regime worldwide is organized, really, it's all sponsored and driven by Big Pharma, which happens to be, I don't know, is there 5 to 10 huge giant corporations worldwide that reap in what in effect is trillions of dollars in profit. And these are companies, don't forget, that over the last years, they have actually been convicted and paid fines amounting to billions of dollars for what they have done wrong and what they've got wrong with their science and their testing regimes. But Big Pharma is embedded in our healthcare, and that if there's a bigger picture we need to keep an eye on, that is certainly one of them. We have to separate the influence of the pharmaceutical industry from, setting our health agenda and delivery of our health service. Yes, someone has to manufacture the drugs, but that doesn't mean that they dictate. That
they test them, and it doesn't mean that they are the one. We have to believe everything that they tell us. I think that's the principal issue. I think some kind of an institute, a public institute of pharmacology here in Ireland, where we could test these products ourselves. The state can do it as opposed to them. Diarmaid, our time is going to run out very soon. You have plans made over the coming months, and we've just mentioned some of the issues that are coming up, that this has not gone away. Do you want to tell the viewers what some of those plans are?
Well, we wanted to ask people around Ireland, would they establish weekly activities like the Hold the Line movement that's going on there now in Limerick on Sundays, or in Nina on Saturday, like the tickets outside the party clinics or even political party offices. Let's highlight this thing everywhere. Now, I know also Limerick City, in fact, is scheduled for a march and a rally on the 5th, Saturday the 5th of February, hosted by the Campaign for Truth and Proper Healthcare. That's taking place. And I know others are under discussion in different areas, and we'd like to see them happening in Waterford, in Galway, in Kerry, in Tipperary, everywhere up and down the country, and of course Dublin. But I think, in my mind at least, this thing is gearing towards maybe after St. Patrick's Day, a biggest assembly yet in Dublin city centre. If the government hasn't capitulated on the issue of the children before then, we should fill O'Connell Street to tell them this is not acceptable. So this
is prior to any potential renewal of
Yes.
the legislation. Yeah,
Yeah,
to try
yeah.
to stop it. Yeah.
And to help this, like we're building this national campaign, we want people to visit our website. The website is appropriately called civilrights.ie, which is what the whole thing boils down to. Do we have rights as a people or not? So civilrights.ie, people can register their interest on that website, and that way they will be kept in the loop. And those are our means of communication, because as
There's
you know,
a text system. I heard something at the march on Saturday about a text system.
there
What
is,
is that?
yeah, there is. People can very simply register from their phone if they send an SMS, a standard text message, to the number 51444. That's 51444, and with the word truth followed by their first name is enough, and what county they're in. That way we can segregate people in different areas for localized events. And people around the country should contact that campaign as well and try to elicit support for the efforts they're making locally. So we're building the campaign based on, you know, principles, respect for our rights, our civil rights, respect for informed consent being the principle underlining healthcare, and peacefully. This is what we're doing, and people should join in and make this campaign strong. That is the only guarantee we have of turning this back, because while we're splintered or diverted, then we're going to be more and more hammered by a system which is, you know, needs to be held to account. That's the other big thing here is, when the dust settles here, we have to get answers as to why this has happened. People have to be held to account for their actions. We have enough lack of accountability in every area of public life in Ireland, and it's costed lives and it's broken families and everything. So people need to be held to account for their action. That's basic.
Diarmaid O'Cadhla, I think there's no better man to drive a movement to do that. Thanks for joining us again, Diarmaid. We'll be speaking to you hopefully in a week or two to see what developments are. In the meantime, stay safe, but keep active.
There you go.
EY.